You can die in your sleep without ever waking up, not from a nightmare, not from some mystery story. From normal sleep, your bed, your pillow, your room, on an ordinary night. Because while you're unconscious, you can't correct mistakes. You can't notice warning signs. You can't react in time. And your body can do things that are harmless when you're awake, but dangerous when you're not. Today, we're counting down the 5 deadliest things people do in their sleep-real behaviors tied to real injuries and real deaths. For each one, I'll show you exactly what's happening, why it becomes lethal, the way it usually starts, and the simple switch that lowers the risk fast. And stay with me to the end, because the last one is the most common on this list. And once you know what it is, you'll realize how many people are doing it tonight without a second thought. Let's start with number 5. Number 5, sleepwalking. Your body up while your brain is offline. Most people think sleepwalking is funny. It's the harmless version you see in movies. Someone wanders into the kitchen, mumbles something weird, maybe opens the fridge, then shuffles back to bed like nothing happened. And sure, sometimes it looks like that. But what sleepwalking really is your body moving through the real world while the part of your brain that handles judgment, awareness, and memory is not fully online. So you're not awake and choosing. You're on autopilot with the safety features disabled. That's why it can turn deadly. Because a sleepwalker doesn't treat hazards like hazards. They don't look at a staircase and think, careful. They don't feel the same fear response. They don't stop themselves the way they would in daylight. They just move. And the unsettling part is how ordinary it begins. You go to bed like normal. You fall asleep like normal. Then at some point in the night, your body gets up. Maybe you sit upright. Maybe you stand. Maybe you walk. If you've ever seen it in real life, you know how strange it is. Their eyes can be open, but it doesn't feel like they're there. You can speak to them and get a response that sounds like words, but it doesn't connect. It's like talking to someone who's halfway inside a dream. And this is where things get dangerous because the world is full of objects that require awareness to navigate safe. A sleepwalker can clip a door frame and stumble. They can trip over a rug, a laundry basket, a pet, a charger cable, anything. They can miss a step in a dark hallway. They can turn wrong and hit a hard surface. When you're awake, a stumble is a quick recovery. When you're asleep, you don't recover the same way. You don't brace properly. You don't put your hands out in time. You don't protect your head the way you would if you saw the fall coming. Your body just goes where gravity sends it. And the real danger isn't simply walking around the bedroom. It's what happens when sleepwalking moves past odd and into unsafe. Doors, windows, stairs, balconies, even outside. Because when the brain is offline, the house doesn't feel like a house anymore. It can feel like part of the dream. And dreams don't label edges. Dreams don't warn you about heights. Dreams don't tell you that a locked front door is there for a reason. That's why the worst sleepwalking incidents sound impossible until you remember the key detail. The person isn't making normal decisions. They can do things they would never do awake, then wake up later confused, injured, and with no memory of how it happened. And if you're thinking, wouldn't they wake up if something went wrong? Not always. That's what makes this so dangerous. The body can stay active while the mind stays asleep. There's also another part people don't realize until they're in it. Helping can backfire if it's done wrong. If you startle a sleepwalker, you can trigger panic and sudden movement. They might jerk away, stumble, swing an arm, or bolt. Not because they're violent, because they're disoriented. So the danger isn't just to them, it can be to whoever tries to intervene without thinking. Sleepwalking also isn't just a little kid thing. Yes, it's common in children and many grow out of it. But adults sleepwalk too, and episodes can be triggered or worsened by things that are painfully normal. Stress, sleep deprivation, alcohol, illness or fever, irregular schedules, and certain medication. So someone who doesn't sleepwalk can suddenly have an episode during a rough week, shrug it off as a one-time thing, and never realize how close they came to something worse. That's why sleepwalking makes this list. Not because it happens every night to everyone, but because when it does happen, it turns your environment into a hazard while you're not fully present to protect yourself. So here's the simple switch that lowers the risk fast. Make the sleepwalker's world smaller and safer. Clear the floor at night. Remove trip hazards. Secure doors and windows. Block off stairs if you can. And if you know someone sleepwalks, don't leave them in a house layout that assumes perfect awareness at 3 a.m. And if you're the one who sleepwalks, the biggest lever isn't try harder, it's sleep. Consistent sleep, enough sleep, because lack of sleep can make episodes more likely and more intense. If sleepwalking is frequent, severe, or new in adulthood, childhood, don't just laugh it off. That's a real medical conversation. Because number 5 introduces the most unsettling idea in this whole countdown. When you're asleep, you don't get to correct yourself. And the next one is scarier because it doesn't involve walking anywhere at all. It happens in bed, it feels completely normal, and it can turn into a silent emergency before you're awake enough to understand what's happening. Number 4, sleeping with your phone charging in bed. Almost everyone does this and nobody thinks it's a risk. Your phone is low, you're tired, you plug it in, toss it on the bed, and tell yourself you'll move it later. Sometimes it ends up under your pillow. Sometimes it slides under the blanket. Sometimes it's wedged right next to you because you like falling asleep to a video or you want the alarm close. It feels harmless because nothing bad happens. Until the one night something does. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Charging creates heat. That's normal. Batteries warm up. Charging bricks warm up. Cables warm up. And most of the time, that heat is small enough that it never matters. The problem is what happens when you combine heat with the soft, insulating environment of a bed. A bed is designed to trap warmth. Blankets, comforters, memory foam, pillows, that's literally their job. So when you put a warming device in the middle of that insulation, you're doing the one thing electronics hate most. You're keeping heat from escaping. Heat has nowhere to go, so it builds. And the scary part is that it can build without any dramatic warning. No loud sound, no sudden burst. Sometimes the first sign is a smell you don't notice because you're asleep. Sometimes it's a tiny crackling sound that blends into background noise. Sometimes it's nothing at all until the moment you wake up and realize your bedding is hotter than it should be. If a battery fails while it's charging, the failure can be violent. That's why you see those videos of phones popping and smoking. It's rare, but it's real. And when rare happens next to your face, it stops being rare in a way that matters. Even if it doesn't go full explosion, overheating can still cause burns. People have woken up with blistered skin because the phone or the charging brick was pinned against them by a blanket and stayed hot for too long. Others have had bedding smolder because heat was trapped in one spot, especially if the cable or charger was damaged. Damaged cables are a huge part of this. Most people keep using chargers that are half dead. The wire is bent, frayed, taped, or only works at a certain angle. You tell yourself it's fine because it still charges, but that damage creates resistance, and resistance creates heat. So now you've got a heat source that's less stable, running for hours in a bed while you're unconscious. That's the part that makes this a sleep danger. If something starts going wrong when you're awake, you notice, you unplug it, you move it, you react. When you're asleep, you can sleep right through the early stages. You can keep breathing in fumes, you can stay lying on a hot device, you can stay in a room that's starting to fill with smoke. And because the phone is usually close to your head, the stakes are higher. Your face, your airway, your eyes, your bedding. One small failure in the wrong position can turn into a serious injury faster than people expect. This is also why under the pillow is the worst version of the habit. A pillow traps heat, and it's inches from your airway. So if the device overheats, you're not just dealing with burns or fire risk. You're dealing with smoke right where you're breathing while you're not fully awake enough to react quickly. Now, to be clear, phones charging on a nightstand are usually fine. The danger isn't the act of charging, it's charging in a place designed to smother heat. So here's what you can do to lower the risk. Charge your phone on a hard surface, not a soft one. Nightstand, desk, dresser, anywhere flat that lets heat escape. Keep it out from under blankets and away from pillow. Replace damaged cables instead of making it work. And if your phone gets unusually hot while charging, stop treating that like normal. Heat is information. Because number 4 proves a quiet rule about sleep. Danger doesn't need a big event, it just needs hours. And the next one is worse because it's not about what's next to you in bed. It's about what you're doing with your own breathing while you sleep and how easy it is for that to turn from normal into a medical emergency. Number 3, sleeping through reflux. Stomach acid going the wrong way. A lot of people think acid reflux is just annoying. Heartburn, a little burn in the chest, maybe a sour taste. You take an antacid, you roll over, you fall asleep, and you treat it like it's nothing. But reflux at night can be dangerous for one reason. When you're asleep, your body's defenses are slower. When you're awake and something comes up your throat, you swallow, you cough, you sit up, you clear it, you react immediately because your brain is paying attention. When you're asleep, you don't always react in time. So if stomach contents rise into the throat while you're lying down, especially flat on your back, they can spill inhale into the airway before you're fully awake enough to protect yourself. That's called aspiration. And even small amounts can cause big problems. Sometimes it's immediate and obvious. You jolt awake coughing hard, gasping, eyes watering, throat burning. It feels like you inhaled the wrong way, except the wrong way is acid. People describe it like fire in the chest and throat, like they can't catch a clean breath for a few seconds. It's terrifying, but at least you woke up. The worst version is quieter. You don't fully wake up. You half cough, swallow, adjust, and fall back into sleep while tiny amounts keep irritating the airway. Over time, that can inflame the lungs and trigger chronic cough, hoarseness, wheezing, and asthma-like symptoms that people never connect to reflux. They think they're just getting sick a lot. They think it's allergies. They think their lungs are the problem. Meanwhile, the real issue is happening at night, in silence. And in some cases, aspiration can lead to aspiration pneumonia, a lung infection caused by inhaling material that doesn't belong there. That can become serious fast, especially in older adults, people with weakened immune systems, people who are very exhausted, or people who mix reflux with alcohol or sedating. Medications. That last part matters. Alcohol relaxes the muscles that help keep stomach acid down. Sedatives can dull your protective reflexes. Heavy meals late at night increase pressure in the stomach. So the classic setup is painfully normal. Late dinner, a few drinks, you crash on your back, and your body doesn't defend your airway as well as it should. Even if it never becomes pneumonia, nighttime reflux can still be dangerous because it chips away at sleep quality and breathing. The acid irritates the throat, the airway gets inflamed, and you start waking up in tiny micro-arousals you don't remember. People end up exhausted and foggy and blame stress when the real problem is their body fighting irritation all night. This is why reflux at night is a different category than reflux during the day. Gravity isn't helping you. You're horizontal. Your swallowing slows. Your awareness is off. And your airway is unprotected in a way it isn't when you're upright. So here's the simple rule. If reflux happens to you at night, stop sleeping flat after heavy meals. Give your body time before bed, keep late night eating lighter, and elevate your upper body if it's a recurring issue. Pay attention to patterns, spicy foods, alcohol, big meals, certain snacks, because reflux is predictable even when it feels random. And if you're waking up choking, coughing, or with burning in the throat, don't shrug it off as just heartburn. That's your airway getting involved. The next one is scarier because it doesn't involve acid or fire or coughing at all. It's something people do every night thinking they're just sleeping normally, while their breathing is quietly struggling for hours. Number 2, snoring. That's actually your airway losing the fight. Most people learn to live with snoring the same way they learn to live with a squeaky door. It's annoying, but it's familiar. You blame the position. You blame being tired. Somebody jokes about it. Somebody shoves you over. You roll onto your side and everyone pretends the problem is solved. But here's what makes this one dangerous. Sometimes snoring isn't a sound problem. It's a breathing problem. And the scary versions doesn't look dramatic from the outside. It looks like a normal person asleep in a normal bed. No thrashing, no panic, just noise, then silence, then a snort, then noise again. That pattern is the clue. Because in a lot of cases, that silence isn't peaceful. It's your airway narrowing or collapsing enough that air can't move properly. Your body keeps trying to pull oxygen in, but the passage is partly blocked, so the effort increases. Your chest works harder. Your heart rate spikes. Your brain gets just alert enough to tighten things up and yank you back into breathing. Then you drop back down and it happens again, over and over and over. The part that messes with people is that you often don't wake up in any way you remember. You just drift. Your body does the fight quietly in the background while your mind stays offline. And that's where the danger lives. Repeated drops in oxygen and repeated stress on the heart night after night, like your body is sprinting in its sleep. Some people notice it in weird ways instead of obvious ones. They wake up with a dry mouth like sandpaper and a headache that feels like pressure behind the eyes. They feel exhausted even after a full night. They get foggy, short-tempered, or anxious. They start relying on caffeine like life support. They doze off in the afternoon and call it being busy. Meanwhile, their sleep is being broken into fragments by their own airway. And yes, this can become deadly. Because when oxygen dips repeatedly and your cardiovascular system gets hammered every night, it raises the risk of serious problems. Not in a cinematic one-night way for most people, but in a slow, grinding way that can lead to dangerous events, especially especially in people who already have high blood pressure, heart issues, diabetes, or are using alcohol or sedating meds. Alcohol is a big one. It relaxes the throat muscles, so the airway collapses easier. Sedatives can dull the brain's wake up and fix this reflex, so the pauses get long, the drops get deeper, and the person has no idea they spent the night struggling. That's why this ranks so high. It's common, it's dismissed, and it has real consequences. So what do you do with that information without spiraling? Start by treating snoring like data, not a joke. If you're snoring loudly, waking up choking or gasping, having morning headaches, or feeling exhausted no matter how long you sleep, don't just upgrade your pillow and hope. Try sleeping on your side, cut alcohol near bedtime, handle nasal congestion, and pay attention to whether the problem changes, and if it doesn't get evaluated. Because when your breathing is the thing that's failing, toughing it out isn't a strategy. The last one is worse because it doesn't rely on noise or snoring or anyone noticing. It's the kind of sleep danger that can look completely peaceful, right up until it isn't. Number 1, taking sleeping pills or just one drink to knock yourself out. This one is number 1 because it doesn't feel dangerous. It feels like self-care. You're exhausted. Your brain won't shut up. You've got an early morning, so you do what millions of people do. You take something to make sleep happen. A sleep aid, a prescription, an edible, a couple drinks. Sometimes it's only an antihistamine. Sometimes it's just a little extra dose because the first one didn't hit fast enough. And most nights, nothing dramatic happens. That's why people get comfortable with it. But here's the part people don't like hearing. Anything that sedates you changes more than your ability to fall asleep. It changes your ability to wake up when your body needs you to. And sleep is full of moments where your body needs you. You reposition when your airway narrows. You cough when something irritates your throat. You wake up when you're overheating. You shift when your neck is kinked. You roll when you're face down in a bad position. You wake up enough to fix problems before they become emergencies. Sedation dulls that. It makes you harder to wake. It slows reflexes. It can relax the muscles that keep your airway open. It can deepen breathing problems that would have been minor if you were sleeping naturally. If you mix sedatives with alcohol, the risk jumps. Alcohol isn't just relaxing. It stacks with anything that makes you drowsy. It can push breathing slower, relax throat muscles, and blunt the brain's response to rising carbon dioxide. That combination is why people can look like they're sleeping peacefully while their breathing is getting worse. This is also why a lot of the worst outcomes happen in the most ordinary-looking setups. Someone takes something to sleep. They lie down on their back. They're congested or sick or already prone to snoring. They fall into a deeper, heavier sleep than usual, and their body doesn't correct the way it normally would. They don't wake up to roll. They don't wake up to cough. They don't wake up when breathing becomes shallow. They just stay there, quiet, while the problem grows. For some people, this shows up as waking up confused, with headaches, with a racing heart, feeling like they didn't breathe well all night. For others, it's worse because respiratory depression is a real thing. You don't need a dramatic overdose for breathing to become dangerously suppressed. You just need the wrong dose for your body, the wrong mix, or the wrong condition that night. And the scariest part is how easy it is to rationalize. It's prescribed, so it's safe. It's over the counter, so it's harmless. It's natural, so it's fine. It's only one drink. I'm just trying to sleep. That's the trap. The intention is reasonable, but the physiology doesn't care about your intention. So the way to think about this isn't never take anything. It's stop treating sedation like it's the same thing as sleep. If you use sleep meds, use them exactly as directed. Don't stack them with alcohol. Don't mix multiple products that cause drowsiness. Be careful with extra doses, and if you snore loudly, wake up gasping, have sleep apnea, lung issues, or you're sick and congested, that night is not the night to push your breathing deeper. If you need something every night to fall asleep, that's not a personal failure. That's a sign to address the real issue: stress, schedule, insomnia, sleep apnea, anxiety, whatever's underneath it. Because the deadliest thing people do in their sleep isn't a nightmare. It's making themselves too unconscious to respond when their body starts sending alarms. Sleep is supposed to be the one place you can let your guard down. And most nights you do, and you wake up fine. But the people who didn't wake up also thought it was just a normal night. That's what makes this stuff unsettling. Nothing here looks like danger in the moment. So don't take this as paranoia. Take it as a small favor to your future self. Fix the one habit you know you've been ignoring. The boring change is usually the one that keeps a boring night boring. Now I'm curious, what hit you hardest on this list? And be honest, which one have you done recently? If you want more of these, you know what to do. Like the video, subscribe, and stick around.